All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
All right. Who wants some? Who's next?
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Nice. Nice. Not thrilling, but nice.
I'll use small words that you'll be sure to understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
It's not Irish. It's not English.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough, we can't do for the horses and all.
It's just, well, it's just pikey.
I'm a land farmer, motherfucker!
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Man's got to know his limitations.
You think you know something about everything, don't you?
Oh, God, that's all I need.
An interesting way to open up a conversation.
Well, stupid, are you ready?
Oh, hello there.
All right. Hit the like. We're about to get started. I think we're up on Insta. We're up on Substack. Everything seems to be... I've thrown all the switches. I think. Oh, yes. Yep, there it is. Yes. Excellent. Hey, there's people on Substack even. Watching me in normal framing even, which is lovely. We're only vertical on Instagram right now because I was kicked off of TikTok for being too much. I self-evacuated actually, but all right. Now, I have to find one thing and then I'm going to start.
Okay.
All right. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks' Mornings Mega Worldwide. Tara Dublin will be joining us in hour 2, but for the first hour, it's just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, do yourself a favor. Just stop. Just look. You're not being tracked. You can subscribe to my, believe me. If you're subscribed to all those other channels, then they're, I mean, genuinely, let's be honest. I can understand how the powers that be do get a bit nervous when I enter the room. I understand that. I am a lot more charming and a lot more informed than your average online indie pundit. And they, I get it that the Illuminati lizard people probably, they'd rather get rid of me, but I'm adorable. So they can't. And so I don't think, quite frankly, it will be tied back to you. There's not going to be the big Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide roundup in the coming authoritarian wave. And if is it will just be an internal roundup of like meet you on the corner of 5th and Main with your bug out bag. We're all going to Canada. I'm kidding. So welcome chat room, by the way. Greatest chat room in the history of chat rooms. Yes, this was a gift. And thank you very much. So, and look at that, gifted memberships right out of the gate. We got people supporting the show and all this kind of stuff. And I had a clip, and I don't normally do clips in the morning, as you do, but I have one that applies specifically to Tara. So I'm going to have to, at some point before she gets here, remind me to cue it up. Because as they dropped the video, it was, whatever. Anyways, point being, this is it's Supreme Court Day. Well, I'm going to move this down so it looks better. Look at that. That's terrible. It's Supreme Court Day when the Supreme Court, these folks, who I got to say, always looks like nerd prom. No offense to my fellow nerds, but everybody on the Supreme Court, whenever they get them together, it's like the annual meeting of the Wedgie Survivors Club in a lot of ways. So, lived experience being what it is, you could take what you will from that and how they're going to see the world through their own personal lens. But they ended their 3-month recess today, and so they'll be back in there. One of the big things they'll be answering questions on is whether or not Trump has the right to impose cross-the-board tariffs. He obviously doesn't, based on normal law and the Constitution. He just doesn't. And what they could do, and what they might do, is punt to Congress to define the length of time when he can declare an emergency longer. Because the idea is that he's been using effectively emergency powers, or the idea that we're being invaded or attacked national security reasons, like the authorized use of military force, as a predicate for all of these tariffs. We're being undermined specifically, because we don't tariff people enough or something like that. And so that emergency powers, there's a lot of flexibility in what the president can have and use those for. And in this particular case, it's ridiculous, and everybody knows it. However, the president, whoever that next president should be, or the one after that, or the one after that, should have the ability in an emergency to not have to reconvene Congress to deal with an emergency, but there should be a time limit on it. 90 days, 60 days, whatever. Trump's are of indeterminate length. And what's I think everybody's aware of is that most companies will just sit on the sidelines and not invest or not hire new people or any of that kind of stuff based on what the tariff costs will be, or adjust, raise their prices slightly, maybe absorb a little of it so they can get what stock they have out the door. But after that, start passing it along as they have to get new stuff, like upgrades to phones, upgrades to electronics, those kind of things. As the new stock comes in, the tariffs will be added to the customer's cost. They can only take it for so long. But the idea is that, let's say they give themselves a 6 to 9 month window. Effectively, that gives them time enough to drag the economy, hold back everything, see which way this is going to go, and then see which way the political winds are going in terms of the midterms. And this idea that we're not going to have midterms, I hear it all the time, and it's just put it out of your mind. Just quit it. Just stop with there's not going to be midterms talk. It's immaterial. It's a worry point that has no basis in reality. We will get to it when we get to it. But in the meantime, we'll make sure that every Democrat has the proper ID that they will need to vote as they ratchet up these things. We'll make sure that people are registered. We'll do all the right stuff. And Big Stefan says, likely rigged midterms. Then all the more reason to vote. If they're going to rig them, you have to, it's the old, that's where Trump got his whole too big to rig nonsense. You have to do that. So, and again, let me explain something to you about that thought even, that they're going to throw the midterms out and we're not going to have elections. Okay. The extraordinary nature of that, has to be a part of the conversation, because even, right-wing Republicans at the canceling of elections to just keep Trump in power or just keep votes from happening will set fire to a huge section of Republican voters. It would be the one thing that would turn sort of your rhinos, as it were, your R on the shirt Republicans into indie Democrats for a cycle. If they cancel them, or the rigging of it, again, is something they will try. But again, you can outdo that with numbers. And we've got the numbers. There are more Democrats than there are Republicans, period. We have work to do between now and then, making sure everybody's registered, making sure everybody votes, and making sure that all these motherfuckers, and they know who they are, who are talking down the vote on the Democratic side, purity test and all, the TYT crowd, if we don't get everything, nobody gets anything, those fuckers get shut down hard over the next year, because they're largely why we're in this mess. A lot of people shy away from vote shaming. Fuck that. I'm happily vote shaming. If you didn't, or you voted third party, or you voted for the other side, fuck you. Get on board, or stop pretending that you care about the issues you say you do. I think that's the primary one. Stop telling me you care about the poor, or you care about women's rights, or you care about, kids getting kicked off of S-chip, or USAID being shut down. I don't want to hear it. If you're not going to vote in a strategic way over the long term for the party that created the fucking programs in the first place, then shut the fuck up and be ashamed. Yes. Period. End of conversation. This matters. I'm not one of these people that thinks of politics, even though I use comedy around it. It's because I take it so seriously. But I'm not one of these people that kind of, pisses away politics as if it's just something that happens in a sideline thing. It directly affects people's lives. It's the most direct path for most people to have an impact on their fellow human beings' lives. So if you acquiesce that power, or you throw it away, fuck you. You're an active measure against the good that you supposedly believe in. And therefore, at some point, I have to question whether you ever believed it at all. Yeah. And now, by the way, I only use vote shaming on our side because our side can actually feel shame. If you've done something terrible and your soul is telling you it needs remedying, or your conscience is telling you it needs remedying, you can feel an emotion called shame. That's a good thing. If you can be ashamed, that's a quality. If you've done something wrong and hurt someone through your action or inaction, and you feel shame about that, there's hope for you. Trump can't feel shame. I've talked about this a bunch of times. The right does not feel shame. They can feel embarrassed, which is why when you try to shame them by holding up signs that say shame, 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 or you call them racist or bigot, which is something one should be ashamed of being, logically, they don't give a fuck. First of all, they throw away your assessment of who they are entirely. They don't take that seriously. And secondly, they take the fact that you are calling them a racist or a bigot or whatever, or holding up a sign that says shame, as a sign that they're ruining your life and making you upset and making you outraged and causing you to waste your time on unproductive things like trying to teach them the value of shame. They benefit from it. You have to embarrass them. Libertarians don't exist in their own minds. Yeah, I don't even know why. Bringing up libertarians or libertarianism in terms of politics. By the way, I would also attribute this to communism. Bringing it up in terms of politics is like bringing up. Well, that almost makes a direct correlation to Star Wars. I was going to say like old westerns in a conversation about the Star Wars canon, but there's overlap there. I take it back. I'm looking for the the most proper. It's apples and oranges, except those are both fruit. No, it's apples and road apples. There you go. That's what it is. So apples would be the politics. Road apples would be libertarianism or communism. They're not actually functioning systems. They're borderline theologies. Libertarians often think of themselves largely as atheists, when in reality they're universalists or geneticists, and they believe there's sort of like an intrinsic intelligence to genomes, and therefore your racism is justified by, you know, the best genes punching their way to the top, as you know, God in the genes, as it were, which, you know, I've often heard as I walk by. But that, you know, and the same thing with communism. Is like both of them are theoretical exercises that have been overlaid on the possibility of politics. And two of the biggest problems with them is politics is literally the active political work of citizenry. If you're involved in the politics of it, in democracy, it's almost a direct result of democracy. That's what politics is. There's no politicking in an authoritarian government, right? There's jockeying for power within it, and we could call that politicking because that's our word for it, but that's not what it is. It's violence for violence sake, right? It's just power grabbing. Politicking is trying to win favor with other people and groups and try to work your way up and gain position through your appeal to moneyed interests or the voters or whatever it is. That's politicking. There's none of that in communism or libertarianism. None. An authoritarian overlord has to happen in either to make it work. Libertarians, ironically, need a monarch. That's the ad absurdum, ad infinitum direction that libertarianism always goes, and so does communism. Communism needs a czar. It needs a Chairman Mao, a Chairman Xi. It has a sharper hierarchy than democracy does. Hence, central planning, right? That's the essence of it. Central planning has to boil down to I want to be the decider, right? Okay. Now, in our system, whether Trump likes it or not, we do have 3 co-equal branches of government. Whether they use that power is a reflection of the people's vote. Because right now, we have the House and Senate that people voted for. That the maggots, by and large, and you can tell by how they talk about this, want Trump as a monarch, a dictator, and they want Congress to stay out of his way. Now, there's a subset of the libertarian thread of Rand Paul and all that shit in the Republicans and what they're doing, in that do less, spend less has been their mantra for a long time, and the idea that fearing a tyrannical government and this kind of Ruby Ridge mentality that they've had since Waco, but I mean forever, but specifically since then, is this idea that the government itself, can only do bad. So if you fund it, and right now we're in a shutdown, and there's a reason why Republicans left town and aren't there to have to actually haggle about the job that they're sent there to do. And we'll get to the part, I'm sure, at some point where Republicans have this weird thing about, like, people in Washington don't understand you, so send me there so I can get an apartment and start having a mistress and get a lot of money, and then come back, after only working there about 8 years, worth $22 million, right? Or in Marjorie Taylor Greene's case, you could start fucking somebody from RSBN and turn your $200,000 net worth into $22.5 million, right? So, and again, the Republican motto is and has always been, government can't do anything right, elect me and I'll prove it. Democrats, because we have been focused, and I think rightly so, as American is as it is, on a big tent concept. The big tent, the diversity element, which I think, again, it was good to push for, ate itself in the last couple of years by diversity becoming aligned with a formal segregationist movement inside, I'd say the far left flank. This idea that diversity is our strength. We're not a mixing pot. We're a salad. Actually, I don't like any of my vegetables to touch on my plate. And that people started getting sectorized where nobody can understand anybody else specifically. That is part of the message is that not only can we not just kind of naturally get along? But there are inherent traits in this other person that I couldn't possibly understand, and there are inherent traits in me that they couldn't possibly understand, which is, as a human, fucking nonsense. But, and it used to be, by the way Republicans went. And maybe what we were seeing is an odd version of the flip that Democrats and Republicans did in the 60s, going back the other way. As we find like sort of the social justice warrior superintendents of schools separating kids into black and white for their, because it's better for them to learn with their own or something like that. Like, I don't know how that's any different than the shit Strom Thurmond was throwing around, and because it's a black woman who's allegedly Democratic, people nod. And you're like, no, that doesn't work at all. And again, diversity has never been finding someone who looks different than you that talks just like you. Diversity is not finding a bunch of people in agreement on society's ills or the direction of the public interest, but they just happen to be a different color. That's not diversity. Biden is a perfect example of government working properly when you have leadership. Absolutely. And one of the reasons, I guess one of the lessons of our modern age, though, is he should have had better salesmen around him. And that would be us. Now, I was doing my best, but all during the Biden administration, I have 85,000 subscribers on YouTube. And there are these, allegedly on our side, channels with 5, 7, 10 million subscribers. And this is, I put Midas Touch in their own category because they fought the good fight all during it. But there's a bunch of the other ones who were just kind of soft pedaling everything. They were getting very close to describing the Harris-Trump decision as a coin toss. And in some cases, we're going for what are accelerationists. So there's let's see if I can find accelerationism. I'll see if I can find this guy. Yeah. Accelerationism comes out of the sort of transhumanism thing, the H plus crowd. I'll show you this. That's the logo. But accelerationism is this where it comes in a lot of forms. This is just one form of it. But it comes in a lot of forms, which is left wing and right wing both think they want some new version of government. The left wing wants communism, allegedly. The right wing wants a techno-authoritarianism. And I saw a really sketchy quote from Marco Rubio this morning about I think he called them Palestinian technocrats that are going to run Gaza as a techno experiment, effectively. Like, this will be the most scanned and digitally operated space on Earth. That's where they're leaning. This is basically he's just admitting that after they broom out Hamas and whoever, they're going to roll in there not with the Palestinian Authority or the PLO or something like that. They're going to roll in there with Palantir. They're going to roll in there with defense contractors and Teal's companies, right? But accelerationism is, all right, the crash is coming. It's not, by the way. Sorry to tell you. The world is not going to collapse. It's been through these ruffles before, and it will keep doing it because that's how growth happens. It's just, nobody gets to skip history. Sorry. Every seventh wave is higher than the rest of them, and it can either knock you over or it's good surfing, but it doesn't change the fact that it's going to, 7 waves later, there's going to be another big one. And these kind of things ebb and flow as tensions build and subside between sides and all that kind of stuff. And there's a reasoning behind the sort of active approach from both a storytelling aspect and a media aspect to try and tamp down any of the accelerationist talk over time. And so these people have been boiling for a while now. And the accelerationists believe that, look, it's going to crash, and I'm magically going to survive and magically be in charge when this is over. So let's just put in the worst person possible in office and have them crash the system. That's what they want. That's the thing. AI is the devil. Oh, you're adorable. If the satellites crash, honestly, everybody thinks it's going to be 28 days later. 28 days later, they'll be putting satellites back up in the sky. That does not mean there won't be waves of tumult and horror, and as humans have gone through. Ask any of the Slavs taken by the Mongols. Ask anybody who was a victim of the Byzantine or the Ottoman Empire. Like, shit happens, but humanity tends to right itself and build back, and that's what we've always got to be focused on. You got to keep that on the horizon. But there are a bunch of people who believe that an inevitable absolute crash of this system, because it's so complicated and it must be so hard to even envision. I don't even know how anything works, and if it breaks, I wouldn't know how to fix it. So that has to be true of everybody, and therefore it's going to crash. So why don't we just, and this is the Susan Sarandon philosophy, and I'm not kidding. Her argument was, if you want the system to be destroyed, elect someone like Donald Trump, and he will get at destroying it faster. Let's see. Everything's like, you guys are talking so fast, and it's great because it's a good conversation. I see stuff and I'm like, so primarily accelerationism, besides the fact that it's an absurd, borderline D&D fap fest kind of a thought form. No offense to people who play D&D like me, but you know what I mean, where you get sort of in a corner and start arguing about orcs versus elves and like it's a fucking circle jerk, and it doesn't go anywhere. Can Superman and the Hulk fight? If the Hulk gets more angry every time Superman punches him, doesn't he get stronger each time? Therefore, right? It's that kind of conversation. It means nothing. It's a circle jerk. But the impact of people who believe in accelerationism, which, by the way, there are a couple of people in the administration who are absolutely aligned with this, including J.D. Vance, that there's an element of accelerationism in what they are trying to do, is that you try to wind the machine up so high that it can't handle it and it breaks under the stress, and then you can put the pieces back together in your own likeness. This is what they think. It never goes that way. If you don't believe me, ask Hank Paulson, ask George W. Bush after 9/11. The idea that they would allow something like 9/11 happen to do exactly what they wanted to do, and it didn't work out. Even it just cost us a bunch of money and made everybody hate them. But there are there's so many aspects of the accelerationists, by the way, are a part of the Zizians, the trans identifying, and I will put that in air quotes out of respect for real trans people. And I know people say, who are you to decide who a real trans person is? Well, I will say that I do not consider someone who isn't actually trans, who pretends to be trans so that they can move across the country sleeping in women's shelters to keep on the down low while they plan terrorist attacks or the murder of their own relatives. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I wouldn't necessarily honor their pronouns the way I would any other trans person I meet and genuinely speak to. You know what I mean? If Mike Huckabee, who said in the early part, when we were dealing with the question of self-identification, that he was like, if I knew all I had to do was throw on a dress and I could just walk into the girls' bathroom anytime I wanted to, I'd have totally done it as a teenager. I would not have honored his pronouns in that moment, knowing who he was if I was a teenager at the same time. I would have been one of the boys that dragged him out of there. You know what I mean? Out of respect for actual trans people, who I agree exist and deserve as much love and respect as any other human on the planet. Seems simple to me, but again, maybe that's just the broad diversity curse we have to deal with as Democrats. We open ourselves up to so much that closing it down at all, even to protect the people that we are seeking to protect, or the lives we are seeking to lift up, it gets tricky, especially with language police. class race do you play? I mean, I've always been, big fan of like half elf, or elves, because I always wanted to be taller and prettier with pointier ears. Can't say you blame me. So, let's see. If you don't like trans people, it's super easy to be polite and almost ignore them. But when you have interactions, be polite. It's not that hard. I agree. And, that boils down to that concept that we have to deal with all the time, which is respect versus respect. There are a lot of, in French, they call certain words faux amis, false friends, because incredible in English means amazing, but incrédible in French means false, not credible. They're inverse. They sound like the same word, but they mean the opposite. That's a faux ami. How do you think Trump is going to quit? No, I think he's going to pass away. And I don't mean that as an act of, calling for violence against him. I think nature is taking its course every day. Honestly, I would be shocked if he made it to the end of his term, and I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't make it if he barely made it to the midterms. It's bad. So respect versus what? So respect versus respect. So respect, there's a generalized respect. Yes? There's a respecting people's boundaries, meaning that everybody's got a boundary and you don't just automatically push into their boundary. And that's a societal thing by and large. But we use the word respect for that. Like kind of genteel respect in public. What we mean is politeness. But that seems too weak. So respect sounds like something. Okay. Then there's respect you have earned. Respect because you have done something great, or you have earned a position of respect in your family, community, country, whatever it is. That's a pedestaled version of respect versus the generalized version of respect. Are you following me so far? Does that make sense? Do you notice, do you guys recognize the difference between respect and respect? Yes? So, in that, there is a generalized respect that I think most of us, when we say respect, we're talking about. And that's where, like, even on the Democrat side, walking around with a sign that says Black Lives Matter and believing that Black Lives Matter does not mean you're a member of the organization Black Lives Matter, which is a trademarked group. Right? Like, just in the same way that if you're talking about charity, that doesn't mean you're automatically subscribing to Catholic Charities or you give to the Red Cross. You might believe in it as a general envelope for being charitable to your fellow human being. There's a difference, yes? Okay. So what happens is that on the right, they don't have generalized respect most of the time. I will give some of them credit for what I would call generalized politeness. But that gets written off in the South a lot of times. Well, fuck you very much, which is bless your heart, right? That's how it's taken. Even though they're attempting it, and I would argue it's better that they're hiding behind bless your heart than saying what they really feel, because when they feel comfortable to say what they really feel, that's when you're outnumbered, and that's when they think they've got the numbers, and that's when they start plotting violence. It's better when they're hiding it behind bless your heart. Does that make sense? That's the generalized respect. That's them showing that. They don't have to be good at it. It can be ham-handed. I don't care. It beats the shit out of violence, which is a weird way of putting it. Anyways, so the next, the genteel respect part of it, I think is what most of us are talking about in, respecting people's pronouns, respecting people's identity, respecting people's sexual orientation, respecting people's marriage status, whatever. Their lifestyle elements of them, which are the social interactive parts. Does that make sense? The social interactive parts of our society. Not the legal stuff, not whether or not you can get married, but whether or not I believe you are or you aren't married, or if you've been divorced 3 times, You've only been married once because the other two didn't count because the contract says till death do us part, and it's not a marriage unless one of you dies. So you've only been married once, right? I could make that silly comedic argument if I want to, but it doesn't affect your ability to get married or not married or stay single or whatever if you want to, right? So there's the law area of respect also, and then there's the social part. And this is why I have never really been a big proponent of quote unquote social justice, because there isn't any. There is actual justice. There's justice in a court of law. There is just actions. But social interaction requires something a lot more complicated than just victory and victor and loser. And so if you're seeking justice in a situation where people socially will respect you, they're just going to hide it. And if that's all you're going to get, that's what you're going to have to live with. You're going to get bless your heart. And you can't call bullshit on it because you're asking for something that you can't have, which is the pedestal respect given generally. Is any of this breaking through, or am I just urinating into the breeze, as it were? What's happening, Boston Brian? So, yes, the Justice League, that's true. So I would say, hold everyone, and this is a really easy one, hold everyone to the highest standard of whatever they say they believe. And two things will happen. One, they will either stop bullshitting you. It'll collapse and they'll go, I don't really believe that. Or they will recognize their own hypocrisy if they aren't living up to it. And they might not react well. They might still lie about it. They might hide who they truly are. They might, it might subvert their tendencies in that situation. But that beats the alternative. A bunch of people with tiki torches in Charlottesville and a woman getting run over with a car. But that's the social side of things. I believe in genuine justice and in political justice, which is if something has been wrong for a long time and you can have a chance to right it legislatively, you can do that. And hence the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act and the giving women the right to vote, the amending the Constitution. That's actual justice at work. And that's the part that actually matters and isn't just people talking about, arguing fanfic. It took me this long to get there, but I realize what I'm talking about in this, how to form it anyways, which is there are elements of our political discourse that are genuinely about the politics of helping people and moving things forward. And then there's political fanfic. And we have been eaten up with political fanfic for a while because Trump sets the tone, because people buy into his outrage, sales pitch is his little outrage grenades that he chucks around. And they chase that laser pointer, like, here he is doing something outrageous again. Here he is doing something outrageous again. When it's the overall theme of things, Project 2025, and I think the Russ Voigt appointment to kind of, deal with, eliminating programs in the government, all of which, by the way, are needed by red states more than they're needed by blue states, especially now. But they'll come to that conclusion on their own. And again, hold them to their highest standard, and they will, they'll stomp a rake eventually. That Trump represents kind of this overall wave of things, and what he's trying to do is distract through analogous or single instance stuff like Kilmer Abrego Garcia and those kind of things. Indicative, and by the way, it cuts both ways. I was making the point the other day that it cut the Kilmer Abrego Garcia thing is not just to outrage liberals and make them come out and defend somebody that, they'll say, well, he beat his wife at one point and that kind of stuff, and drag them down into we're talking about due process. We all had that conversation. And I thought if you just talk about due process and move on, you don't have to be caught in the minutia and talk about the fanfic of the rest of the story, because how it will affect all the other humans were concerned with is the lack of due process. And you hammer that home and you stay there and you're fine. But we get caught up in the fanfic of it. And it's because he kind of sets the tone. There's also a reason why it's not necessarily all aimed at liberals. It's not always aimed at Democrats. It's actually more dealing with the fact that his numbers are shit right now, and his hardline followers are starting to fall off. About 8 to 12% of them are your QAnon crowd, and those folks have been really shaky since the Epstein memo, and they're not going anywhere. They're locked into that shit. And so, and a big portion of them were like almost okay with looking the other way on the Epstein stuff and putting off, their outrage about it not being released, as long as he's rounding up these immigrants, as long as he's getting rid of all the 25 million immigrants. And I've told you guys multiple times, there's less than 11 million undocumented immigrants in the country right now. That's been a relatively static number. Most of the people that came across were immediately rejected. Most of the people that came into the country and stayed for a little while also went back. A portion of them were unaccompanied minors or women with children. Those people got placed in programs on a temporary protected status for a period of time with no expectation that they would stay forever, I guess, but then got work permits and that kind of stuff. And the mothers were working and the kids were getting school and food and that kind of stuff. Jesus-y stuff. But the numbers were nowhere near. That's why Fox had to play on a loop all the people at the southern border at when they created that line that made everybody sort of queue like a Disney World line, where it just made it look like, because you back up all those people and you hold them there, and then you take an aerial shot of it and you go, oh my God, this is every day. And it wasn't every day. It was every day those people were parked there, but they weren't coming through at that number every single day. But that was the illusion they created. And it wasn't just to deny Democrats the right to vote and blah, blah, blah. It was because maggots had to be made afraid on such a desperate level that an army of psychopaths was coming across the desert, walking through the desert straight out of an asylum to stab you with a fentanyl knife. And ultimately, the numbers, because they don't pan out, he's not able to show the roundups that he wants. So they did a roundup in Chicago. Let's see if I can show this thing. Let's see. Customs enforcement conduct raids in Chicago. Let's see. I don't know if they've got the footage of this one in here. Let's see.
I spoke to one.
Hello. Okay, you spoke to one woman. You did. Okay, this is Eyewitness News. Talking about the 75th Street. Yeah. So this is part of the report.
In South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no, I didn't.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen video shows the chaotic scene overnight.
But by the way, that's true of traffic stops. I know people want to be outraged. The difference, though, is that in a traffic stop, you've at least done something else that they had a reasonable reason to come and pull you over because you were driving a car and you also had this, and then it led to them finding out who you are, and then your warrant came up and whatever. But going door to door, and they actively seek out people who have warrants a lot of times. But if they're for something small, they don't bother. It's a matter of the fiscal nature of policing. So they don't send them out. But, since we're here in the neighborhood, that's what they're doing.
Neighbors tell us there were dozens of ICE agents. Neighbors like Ebony Watson says they ducked for cover as they heard several flashbangs go off.
They was terrified. The kids was crying. People was screaming. They looked very distraught. I was out there crying when I seen the little girl come around the corner. Because they was bringing the kids out too. Had them zip tied to each other. That's all I kept asking. Where's the morality? Where's the human?
Mm-hmm.
One of them literally laughed. He was standing right here. He said, them kids.
Watson says budget trucks and military-style vans were used to separate parents from their children. Other neighbors say they saw agents destroying property to get in the building.
And they had a big 15-inch chainsaw with a round blade on it, cutting this fence down. We're under siege. We're being invaded by our own military.
The FBI did confirm.
By the way, I totally dig that dude's vibe. Like, I'm just saying, salute to, well, I don't know what his name is. They did say.
Confirmed this morning that they did help the U.S. Border Patrol carry out a targeted immigration enforcement operation in this area, and they say they have been supporting these efforts at the direction of the U.S. Attorney General.
Right. I mean, because legally you have to. This is what, okay, anecdotally, I don't know if they say how much, but like kids with their hands zip tied and all that kind of stuff, that is performative it's an outrage farm. That's what this is for. And they are, our side will get outraged, and they're hoping that it will be so egregious because they're, doing things like zip tying kids, and word gets out that they said, fuck those kids and all that. They're hoping that will ratchet up the violence because Trump wants his Kent state. He really does. Because that's when, Insurrection Act, martial law, all those things, that's when he thinks it's going to happen. By the way, it ain't, but that's what he wants. That's what he's pushing. The other side is that he's got to show his people that they're being tough on these people. He has to show them that. You know why? Because they don't have the volume. If you don't have the volume, if you can't show me 100,000 people being bussed out of the city in one fell swoop, yeah, it's rage baiting, exactly. If you can't bust, 100,000 out because you don't have them, let me at least see you be mean to a few of them. It's the same thing about Comey. We got to indict him on some bullshit that we know we can't get him on because I got to see it. I want to see a perp walk. That was the thing with Comey. I want to see a perp walk. It's not going to go anywhere. His case is going to get thrown out. It's obvious political targeting. It's the charge against him was asked and answered. It's just dumb. But MAGA doesn't necessarily need the conviction. They just want to see the perp walk. And in that, they have a lot in common with Donald Trump, who, if you look at, how he tried to manipulate the electorate and how he continues to do so, is that he wants highly visible awful to distract from his own awful, or to, lay, unbalanced horror on the other side, on the they and the them and the those people, right? And so look at what he tried to do with Zelensky and sending Rudy Giuliani over there. You're like, start an investigation against the Bidens. It doesn't have to go anywhere. I just need you to announce it. That's all I need. You want to see a stroke? You won't see it. Trump should have been perp walked. Yeah, well, again, I think there's a delicate balance to be walked, and Merrick Garland walked on too delicately. Epstein and Homan files, right? Homan won't see the end of any of this until Democrats control the House and the Senate. So, again, like anybody who's half-assing their vote in the next election or two, the next three, right, frankly, and it's going, well, is there really a difference? Holy shit. Like, if anybody thought Harris would have had, like, ICE teams zip-tying children and bringing them out of buildings and separating, like, kids from their parents in a fucking Ryder truck, really? Bad as you think it was. You really think that, but what was going to happen was going to happen. This is what it was going to look like the whole time. How about the warships off of Venezuela extrajudicially murdering people in boats? You thought Harris was going to do that? How about talking about retaking Bagram? How about, and we'll, hold on, let me see if I can bring this up. Let's see. You remember all the assholes who were talking about how who apparently didn't learn their lesson from the Bush administration about the Patriot Act. And we're like, well, 9/11 is why they did the Patriot Act, so they just have a precursor to do this, and it's going to eliminate all of our freedoms, right? It's going to designate everybody as as an enemy combatant, and you can spy on anybody, which didn't happen in the Patriot Act. And why? Because Democrats and some sensible Republicans said fuck that and scratched that part of it out, not giving the president that authority, mainly because they were worried about how Dick Cheney would use it, and reasonably so. I would say that's a reasonable fear to have, ladies and gentlemen. But Trump just sent a memo, and I wish I had a national security, NSPM 7. Do you guys know what NSPM 7 is? I want to find a copy of it. It's a national security directive, and it's been he issued it on my fucking birthday, by the way. Countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. Now, most people thought of this as an executive order because of how he's just signed stuff and holds it up like a dickhead. I think he even had, he did one of these, right? There's a difference, though. A national security presidential memorandum, and it's number 7 because there's only been 6 more, are national security designations. They are not just executive orders about how money shall be spent or not spent within the, or priorities within the administration, or directives to his cabinet officials to carry out certain things, which are effectively signed memos from the president of the United States. That's what an executive order most of the time is. No, this is a national security presidential memorandum. It carries weight. And let's see. By authority vested in me as president, I hereby direct domestic heinous assassinations and other acts of political violence in the United States have increased in recent years, even in the aftermath of the horrifying assassination of Charlie Kirk. Some individuals who adhere to the alleged shooter's ideology embraced and cheered this evil murder while actively encouraging more political violence. This was preceded by the 2024 assassination of the senior healthcare executive and the 2022 assassination against Supreme Court attempt against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Which, by the way, can I just throw this in here real quick? The guy who shot the healthcare executive, not a Democrat at all, just any more than Tyler Robinson is. Like, not voting, not members of the voting public. And this one in particular, this person drove across the country with a gun and some duct tape and a hose. I don't know what the fuck they were bringing, like a trunk full of things. And he drove across the country to kill Brett Kavanaugh. And when he got within, I think it was like 6 blocks of Kavanaugh's house, he pulled over, decided he couldn't go through with it, and called 911 on himself. Let me repeat that. He called 911 on himself. He turned himself in. He decided that he could not go through with this plot to kill a Supreme Court justice, an individual. Now, did Timothy McVeigh pull over and make a phone call and go, "Hey guys, you might want to clear the building. I'm gonna reface the front of it"? No. 2 separate assassination attempts against my own life in less than 3 months took place in 2024 presidential cycle. Yes, disaffected maggots. Riots in Los Angeles report reflect more than 1,000% increase in attacks on U.S. immigration and customs enforcement officers since January 21st. Well, you put them in harm's way, and then you stir up violence, and then you're surprised when somebody chucks a can of soup at them. I get that. That's the, again, why are they? Oh, because you've put them you've fomented a mob and put them in the center of it, and they're getting hit with stuff.
And when they get caught, they say, "No, this is just soup for my family."
Right. So, in this, hold on one second. We got Tara joining us. She's in the background. Give me 1 second. In this memorandum, it's just a line of grievances, actually. The political violence is not a series of isolated incidents, does not emerge organically. In actuality, it kind of did. I mean, it's chit-chat online that foments these people rising it up. Ralph organically because his fucking melon is rotten, and so he came up with this dipshit idea. Same thing with Thomas Crooks. Like, he kind of got the idea from Alex Jones, it seems. but that's organically. That's not Alex Jones directing him to do it. That's just him hearing it and going, yeah, that's my jam. That's organic radicalization, I guess. They didn't call you and talk you into it. It's not MK Ultra. He didn't get phone calls in the fucking middle of the night from InfoWars telling him, it'd be better if somebody knocked off Trump because then we could get somebody in who's really on the team. Culminating sophisticated organized campaigns of targeted intimidation, radicalization, and threats and violence designed to silence opposing speech. Citation needed. Limit political activity, which was, getting rid of the Voting Rights Act might be one of those things. Change your direct policy outcomes, which is how they're defining it as terrorism, because that's part of the thing. And prevent the function of a democratic society, which I don't know if he's turning himself in. This seems like a confession note. A new law enforcement strategy that investigates all participants in these criminal and terrorist conspiracies, including the organized structures, networks, entities, organizations, funding sources, and predicate actions behind them, is required. So this is the idea that we believe they're being funded outside the country and they're flowing money into these things. And so these people are getting support from somewhere, or their organizations are finding these, lone wolves and growing them out of manure. And so we want to hunt those folks down. These campaigns are often begin by isolating and dehumanizing specific targets to justify murder or other violent acts. They do so through a variety of blah, blah, blah. Okay, there are common recurrent motivations and indices uniting this pattern of violence and terrorism activities under the umbrella of self-described anti-fascism, which is hilarious because Thomas Crooks was an anti-fascist. Neither was Ralph. Neither was the guy who was going to shoot Kavanaugh, who turned himself in. You could argue that Timothy McVeigh thought he was. Hang your hat on that for a while. Timothy McVeigh thought he was anti-fascist. He just thought the fascism was a left-wing fascism. And there you go. These movements portray foundational American principles, blah, 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 blah. And it's just kind of justify. The United States requires a national... Okay, so 2, investigating domestic terror organizations. And this is the part that really fucks shit up. And then I'm going to bring in Tara. The National Joint Terrorism Task Force and its local offices, collectively JTTFs, so much easier to say, shall coordinate and supervise a comprehensive national strategy to investigate, prosecute, and disrupt entities and individuals engaged in acts of political violence and intimidation designed to suppress lawful political activity or obstruct the rule of law. This strategy shall include the investigatory, stand back and stand by, right? This strategy shall include the investigatory and prosecutorial measures set forth in this section. They will investigate potential federal crimes relating to the acts of recruiting or radicalizing persons for the purpose of political violence, terrorism, conspiracy against rights, the violent deprivation of any citizens' rights. The JTTFS, which sounds like one of the organizations they would be hunting down, weirdly enough, when you put it that way, shall also investigate institutional and individual funders, officers and employees of organizations that are responsible for, sponsor, or otherwise aid and abet the principal actors engaging in the criminal conduct described in subsection A and B of this section. Now, that's already law. If you fund or instruct or drive somebody to a terrorist act, you're criminally liable. What he's trying to do is this, and non-governmental organizations and American citizens residing abroad or with close ties to foreign governments. There's a dude in China that he's talking about specifically that they want to put a warrant out for. That's it's almost entirely linked to this one guy. Agents, citizens, foundations, or influence networks, which that's a big one right there. Engaged in violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, or money laundering by funding, creating, or supporting entities that engage in activities that support or encourage domestic terrorism. And again, I don't know how you create the direct line, but that's what they're going to seek to do. They'll consult and coordinate with executive departments, agencies, blah, blah, blah. They may, to the extent permitted by law, and again, this is a big part of this because they're going to have to go to states, request operational assistance from and coordinate with law enforcement partners when investigating domestic terrorism. That's what they always do. They always have done this. He's also pretending to reinvent the wheel so that people think he's doing something post Charlie Kirk. The National Joint Terrorism Task Force shall provide regular progress updates to the president. He's not going to read them. The Attorney General shall direct the Department of Justice to prosecute all federal crimes to the maximum extent possible, blah, blah, blah. The Attorney General shall issue specific guidance that ensures domestic terrorism priorities include politically motivated terrorist acts such as organized doxing campaigns, swatting, rioting, looting, trespass, assault, destruction of property, threats of violence, and civil disorder. And that's civil disorder is too broad and will get thrown back in their face by almost any judge. But the rest of them, though, they'll overlay with that. Organized doxing campaigns are probably the one that they're going to go after the most using the internet. This guidance also shall include an identification of any behaviors, fact patterns, recurrent motivations, or other indicia common to organizations and entities that coordinate these acts in order to direct efforts to identify and prevent potential violent activity. So the idea is that we're going to look at how these people act and use the language that people say as a predicate for investigating them further. We will assume that if somebody said something and they did something awful, that anybody who says something like it is also going to do something awful. Beyond see something, say something, we're going to direct we're going to be proactive in going after people for what they potentially say. Now, I guarantee this is 100% left wing. Like they're going to go after, left wing violent networks, and people are talking about this. And by the way, fine. If somebody's planning domestic terrorism, they're going to shoot somebody, blow somebody up, start a riot, loot fucking stores. Fuck them. But I guarantee the thing we're going to need to point out is that it will not apply to the Proud Boys or Patriot Front or any of those groups. And that's where, if this goes into effect, what I think Democrats in the House and the Senate need to do is start calling out, these groups to be, call out Pam Bondi for not going after these groups. Commissioner of the IRS will go through that. So they're going to, remember that whole thing about them taking away they were debanking people for the truckers in Canada and how terrible that was? That's what he's saying right here. That anybody that we say or believe or uses the same language as somebody who's engaged in domestic violence or domestic terrorism or political violence might, then we can debank them as well. We'll use the IRS to shut them down. All federal law enforcement agencies will investigate with investigating authorities shall question and interrogate within all lawful authorities, and that's fairly broad. Individuals engaged in political violence or lawlessness regarding the entity or individual organization organizing such actions and any related financial sponsorship of those actions prior to adjudication or initiation of a plea agreement. So this is just a step change, but almost no change in the law. Investigations should prioritize crimes such as the following: assaulting federal officers or employees, or otherwise engaging in conduct prescribed in 18 U.S.C. 111, conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. 241, conspiracy to commit offense under 18 U.S.C. 371, solicitation to commit a crime of violence under 18, money laundering, funding of terrorist acts, or otherwise facilitating terror. What does this tell you? It tells you all this shit's already on the books, folks. Again, this is Trump wanting credit for shit that already exists and trying to sound tough to his people. Like he's doing something. Look busy. This is the look busy memo. Now, the problem is there are threads in it where it would allow right-wing politicians, like judges, I would say, and other people, and law enforcement who are very Trumpy to go after people for what they say. And this gives them justification, almost like an authorized use of military force internally. And then the Department of Justice will designate these people as terrorists. Domestic terrorism merits it will be may recommend that any group or entity whose members are engaged in activities meeting the definition of domestic terrorism in 18 U.S.C. merits designation as a domestic terrorist organization, and that would include civil disorder. Again, an unauthorized march is civil disorder. A sit-in is civil disorder. Just so you know, for legal purposes. Domestic terrorism is a national priority. And I'll get in 1 second, Tara, and then I'll, hold on, I'll show you. You can see me now, I think. And can you hear me okay, Tara, by the way?
Yeah, yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, sure.
There you are.
Yeah.
Now you're on my screen.
That's right.
Good looking.
Hi there. Let me give me 1 second. I'll bring you in. And I just want to finish this one little piece, and then I'm sure you're hearing some of it, so we'll talk about that in a second. Domestic terrorism as a national priority area. I got to say, this is what Christopher Wray was saying in front of the fucking Congress 2 goddamn years ago. Domestic sources of terror are more damaging to our national security and more of a danger, more something they watch than anything else. And he did not say right-wing terror. He said domestic. And the reason the right-wingers took it so personally is because they know how much they have in the recent past, January 6th, and how much they want to engage in it. That means they're targeting us. Now, apparently, it doesn't. Now that they think Trump's just going to go after anybody with an Antifa flag or wears black bloc, strip them down and basically hit them with a phone book until they tell them who they work for, they're okay with it. General provision, nothing. And this is the part that's got to stand out to everybody. And I need everybody to lower the pearl clutching for just 1 second. Always. Because even though this is I don't think they have to add this to a national security memorandum, but I think they did it out of habit because they're stupid. Nothing in this memorandum shall construe to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law enforcement department or head thereof, which means they have any law enforcement agency has the right to do or not do this, state, local, or federal. The function of the director of the Office of Management Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals, not spending any new money on it. It's just a direction, very much like an EO, but they don't know the fucking difference because they're dumb. It will be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations, which means any law enforcement money that's out there for counterterrorism domestically will be used for that. But Republicans have cut funding to fight domestic terrorism because they took it fucking personally. So he's going to have to go and ask for more money if he actually wants to do anything with this, which will be hilarious. And then this memorandum is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any part against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. This is boilerplate that's on the end of every executive order. Along with this, the Secretary of Homeland Security is authorized and redirected to publish this memorandum in the Federal Register. That's just what makes it official as soon as he signs it. That was it. Now, what's the big difference? National Security Presidential Memorandum number 7. I'm going to bring in Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. How are you?
Hi. Hi, we're here. Hi, hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Am I too
Yes,
loud?
you
Am
sound
I loud
great.
enough? Am I
Nope,
good
you're good.
enough? We're all
So,
good. Hi. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So, this countering domestic terrorism thing that he released on my birthday is part and parcel to, they're going to use this like he's using tariffs across the board to solve all kinds of economic issues that he sees as a problem. Ways to force things like pharmaceutical companies to sell less and, drugs for less. Like it almost as an emergency provision until such time as Congress gets off its ass and actually writes a law to do something, or it just falls apart, or the SCOTUS throws it out, which we're waiting on the tariff thing to see if we'll know if they're just bought and paid for effectively in a permanent sense based on the tariff stuff, or if their legacy doesn't matter as much to them as Trump's legacy does. And in the case of Amy Coney Barrett, I don't think it is. In the case of Brett Kavanaugh, I think he reveres Trump more than he reveres his own place on the planet. Same with Clarence Thomas. Alito, maybe not. So we'll see. It's one of the biggest, plates that's spinning right now. But this particular thing, this memorandum is effectively the authorized use of military force within the United States. That's what he wants it to be. Is it legally? No. Does it mean that right-wing cops and sheriffs and stuff won't go to the absolute fringe edge of what it allows them to do? Abso-fucking-lutely. Every soup can thrower is going to get, grabbed by the shirt collar and hit and said, "Who sent you?" Right? That's going to be the argument.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a lot to say about organized political violence because Trump is the one who's organizing it.
Right.
And we have seen evidence of this here in Portland, which is, again, not a war zone, not war ravaged, not on fire. And for people who have never been here, I would really like to explain that the ICE facility is on one city block within 146 square miles of this city. It's the equivalent of someone going and taking some video inside the Port Authority bathrooms and saying, all of New York City is this. And I feel like I'm like this one woman Portland advocate. I mean, I know I'm not the only one telling the truth about Portland. It's what's happening here in Portland is unconscionable, and that Trump is doing everything that he can to distract from the Epstein files by doing this. We have to call this out, and I'm frustrated, as you know, because the mainstream media continues to use these videos that you see over and over again. It's dark, there's tear gas and lasers. What I learned last Thursday and Friday, Donald Trump the White House is paying specific MAGA influencers to come to Portland and getting them access to the ICE facility that they should not have. So there are two that came to Portland specifically. There's Nick Sorter, and he got arrested, which is a violation of his parole. So we'll see what happens there. And the other is this woman, Katie Davis Court. They are paid. And Caroline is admitting that, I mean, she's basically admitting it if you read between the lines.
Right.
They're calling them journalists. They are not journalists. I would like to know why the White House cares so much about these two independent right-wing journalists and their footage more than anything else, because they're not using any other footage. They are somehow establishing these quote unquote journalists who are just right-wing agitators. They're it's like putting cat turd on the roof of the ICE facility along with Fox News. They are giving them laser pointers to use to point down in the crowd and fabricate these videos. At the same time that this is happening, and this happened, I believe, on Saturday morning. There's a local representative here, Maxine Dexter, of a Democratic representative, was turned away from touring the ICE facility Saturday morning and was told it was because of the shutdown. She couldn't tour because of the shutdown. And the very same day, Katie Davis Court is on the roof of the ICE facility making a video.
Right.
Which is exactly what I did last Friday. I stood on the roof of my building and did a almost 2-hour live stream to let people know what Portland actually looks like.
Right.
These agitators are getting not just paid by the White House. Their videos are being funneled directly to every right-wing outlet. So Newsmax, OAN, Fox News, every influencer who's paid to push this bullshit. So, and Twitter is also the only app that's really I mean, I'm sure that there's people on, Twitch and Discord who are doing it too. I'm not on those apps. I'm on Twitter. I see the difference, the glaring difference between the messaging there and the messaging on Blue Sky, Instagram, Substack, everywhere else. Somebody in the MSM, and I don't know how it happens, because Hal, as well, and we talked about this when we spoke over the weekend, which we'll get to in a bit, and why we spoke. Nobody in the mainstream media seems to be at all interested in speaking to anyone who lives here. It's one thing to put our local politicians on the air, and that does matter. It does matter to hear from the Oregon AG. It does matter to hear from our governor, our mayor, my senators, our representatives. But there are people like, well, they're politicians. They have to say this. Well, Trump is saying the politicians are petrified and they're lying because they're scared. And they're not. They're not. Okay. They're sharing my Senator Ron Wyden shared videos of the Portland Farmers Market yesterday. It was gloriously beautiful here yesterday. And I went to my friend Nancy's future daughter-in-law's engagement party. No, her daughter-in-law. It's her daughter-in-law. It's her engagement party with her future son-in-law. And these families are blending. And it's this beautiful moment. And they rented out a space on the roof of a building that is literally 1 block. They are bagels, by the way, on my shirt chat room. Bagels. Two bagel representing from a people. And we'll get to that in a little bit too. Okay. So the building where we were, and Portland, because remember where you were at Dante's?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's on West Burnside in Portland, which is the great big street that divides Portland in half from north and south. Where I was at Southwest Burnside and 13th. And that's a block from the Crystal Ballroom, which is one of my favorite venues. It's the oldest venue in Portland. It was opened in 1914. So I'm in the middle of all of it, right? It's the same as if I went to New York City and went to the observation deck of the Empire State Building and went, oh, look at this 360 view of New York.
Right.
It's the same. I want to show you. Look, the skyline's not on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Land isn't on fire. Bridges still standing. We're all good here. We're having a party.
Oh.
And somebody went blah, 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 and now the bloggers are like, touch fake, go on the ground. Okay, well, last Friday I took a walk on Southeast Hawthorne, walked on the ground with one of my besties. Saw dogs wearing goggles and people wearing cool clothes and all the things of Portland. But the MSM isn't showing. I'm tagging everybody that follows me on MSNBC. They're not responding. I'm doing all of the things that I can do with my limited range of motion on Twitter. And thankfully, there are people who are good. Like, if you're not following Wu-Tang's for the Kids on Twitter, do that immediately. That's an excellent account, excellent resistance. And they took my video and embedded it in an original tweet to share instead of retweeting me, which is awesome because that's how a tweet gains real traction, is if more people sharing the video of it. And so I would never go to Voodoo Donuts. People in the chat learn from me. Voodoo Donuts for the tourists. If you come to Portland, I will give you recommendations of real donuts to eat. But anyway,
Voodoo Donuts is lovely. Leave them alone. They're fine. It is for the tourists, but that's totally fine as well. Every time I play Helium, I buy a coffin full of donuts for everybody that's there, and I bring it from Voodoo Donuts, and I give them a big cross section of it. It's totally fine.
Well, that's okay. Well, that means that you're treating the employees of Voodoo Donuts better than their employers. They won't let them unionize. They treat them terribly. The working conditions in there are awful. Go to a good donut place. Go to Blue Star. Blue Star has great donuts, or Sesame Donuts, or
are they?
I'm just saying.
Are they unionized?
Yeah, they're way. I can investigate that, but I can tell you that at Blue Star they are very, very happy people. And they don't
because they haven't tried to unionize yet. Also, it's a donut shop.
I don't know what their story is, but
Yeah.
here's what I know. People who live here know the story of Voodoo Donuts and its owners. Anyway, the point being, it would be great if the MSM would give me 5 minutes so I can be like, no, 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 and no. And why aren't you asking why Harmeet Dillon is tweeting about 2 right-wing influencers and making it all about these 2 people? Instead of Trump being all over the Epstein files? Those are the questions that they're not asking because they have video. And it's always at night, right? Because everyone's like,
it's also the same video over. It's also the same video over and over on a loop and that kind of stuff. Let me over and over. Look, I want to trust you, and I think my audience wants to trust you about this, Tara. But I have a real source that we can go to that can tell us what really is going on in Portland, and I think we need to hear. We need to hear from him because he could tell us the reality. Yeah. Here you go.
Today's
is that
podcast and broadcast.
Oh no, that's Glenn
Portland
Beck. Okay.
is
They all look
lawless.
the same.
Now,
hold on. Let
isn't.
it play so we can comment on it.
Today's podcast and broadcast. Portland is lawless now. It is lawless. That's a fact.
So I guess they not only they defund the cops, they just don't have any anymore. The courts are shut down. You can't even get a parking ticket. You fill your boots, Portland.
When you now have the governor coming out and saying, I don't believe ICE. I don't believe that there was, some woman that was trying to kill them. When Chicago calls the police back and says you're not to help protect federal agents.
By the way, Chicago is why Portland is lawless, if you follow the logic. Also, the lady who was in D.C. The lady in D.C. who was there to kill ICE people with a buck knife in her purse, and 2 Molotov cocktails.
I haven't heard this.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Looney Tunes.
Okay.
She was in D.C. Okay. He's talking about Chicago, and that's why, look, Portland is lawless because 2 other cities. There's a symbiotic relationship.
When you have now cartels coming out with wanted posters offering rewards for ICE agents' death.
Where are they printing these? In the back fold of Mad Magazine?
Know.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't subscribe to Cartel Weekly.
You're in a lawless situation.
Well, then the whole country is lawless or whatever. Well, I don't know why Portland catches shit. Right.
Completely lawless.
Completely lawless. There is no law. If anybody attacks one of these ICE agents, their fellow ICE agents don't have the right to fight back. Or if they do, they'll be tried under the law of vigilante justice.
There are those who wish to destroy Western civilization. We're not talking about the people who wanted to vote for Joe Biden because they thought his policies were better than Donald Trump's. We're not talking about that. We are talking about people who actually wish to destroy our nation and our civilization. One of those groups
you
is
are,
called
but you're not
Antifa.
saying who they are.
They're well-financed by the
Antifa.
left.
That's not.
So a well-financed, they're an army.
Antifa.
This is the new caravan.
How do you do,
Antifa,
fellow kids in Antifa?
right? Antifa is the new caravan. That's it for the messaging. That's what it is. Now, let me get this straight. Let me be abundantly clear. There is a giant difference between the generalized anti-fascist movement of modern Western civilization post-World War II and people with Antifa flags, because those folks also identify as anarchists. Many of them view themselves as communists. They also specifically define themselves as being pro-political violence. So if you're carrying a flag and you're saying you're Antifa, it's different than being what I would call Antifa in air quotes, meaning that, of course, who isn't against fascism? And I would argue that the people that he's talking about vilifying, that they're peppering us with, they're laying these people over on us. They're saying this is our side, our argument, our belief system, when in reality it's much more aligned with their kind of like burn all the government down to, shrink it down till you could drown it in a bathtub. That arguably is what the Black Bloc kids are trying to do as well. So this isn't even a political thing. It's borderline religious, both on his side and on theirs. It's less about politics. Are the actions, the possible actions of people to control their environment and their governance working together, and the limits to which they have that power, or the expansion to which they have that power, whatever the borders are of your ability to politic for your own benefit. But, the fact that, and this is what I want to talk about like us being dragged onto the fucking field and being forced to fight on their territory. Because I'm not going to defend fucking Antifa anarchists because in Black Bloc who are throwing Molotov cocktails at fucking people or setting fire to coffee shops because, coffee is a sign of the man or some shit. Because I don't want fascism. One of the ways you get fascism is agents provocateur, give the ruling organization the ability to fight back at a higher and higher level. And so they end up shooting into crowds, and you get a Kent State situation. You trigger fascism that way. And some people think they're triggering it so that they can undo it. Like, everybody will see finally that they're fascists because I made them shoot me. That's the theory. Like that, or shoot at us. They're never there when they say it. I would argue that the people who try to do that shit are always online, and but whatever. And then on the other side, they're hoping, and you can even say that like sending Nick Sorter down there to get arrested just because he's trying to cover it, man. Because it's so violent down there, you can't even stand near the crowd without being scooped up. That's the lie.
That's exactly right. Oh, that's a tremendous part of the lie. And Narachi in the chat says, Tara is way too young of a soul to have such angst. Have some faith in the electorate. Unlike Obama, I believe the common man is capable of governing himself. I don't really, I'm not young. I'm 56. So I don't think that's too young. And I think I've been around long enough to get just slightly jaded in the system. But again, I am literally physically here in Portland, and all of the people who are talking about Portland have never been here. For the most, Trump's never been here. Kristi Noem's never been here. All of these people. The only person who has been here from the administration, to the best of my knowledge, is Tom Homan, and he was here for a whole 3 hours. And he went to the ICE facility and he left. And so what he saw of Portland was the drive on the freeway from the airport to the ICE facility down at the South Waterfront, which, by the way, is in a residential area. There are condos and homes and shops and a school nearby. And because of all of this and the tear gas and the bullshit, kids are getting sick and having to go to the emergency room at Dorenbecker's Children's Hospital from all of this shit from Nick Sorter and Katie Davis Court and Fox News. And Trump is the enemy from within, fomenting this violence that he thinks that we're supposed to be fighting against. Yes, we're supposed to be fighting against you, fomenting violence on our streets. And what this all comes down to, watching people justify the invasion of American cities to protect Trump because he's in the Epstein files is abhorrent. We are in a shutdown because he's in the Epstein files.
Right.
He's attacking Oregon specifically because of my Senator Ron Wyden going after the Russian ties to Jeffrey Epstein that financed the sex trafficking. All of this is a personal grudge. All of it. And to target us, to distract from what he's done, that's what he's done his entire life. He's using blue states in a shell game. A 3-card Monty of, okay, look at Chicago. Okay, look at Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay, look here. Okay,
It's
look
like how
there.
Glenn Beck
Don't
is
look at
talking
me.
about it. It's like how Glenn Beck is talking about it. Like
and every accusation is a confession. Always, always, always. Their gaslight has been broken forever. And so I'm going to continue to keep pushing. And that one tweet of mine about being on a roof because I'm elite and I'm an elite liberal living above the city in my white tower. And somebody, and again, most of the responses are fake and it's really easy to ignore those and block them. But someone was just like, that's in a new part of Portland. Bitch, there's no new part of Portland. They didn't just build a brand new part just for the white people. What the fuck? We have such a vibrant community in Portland of name any community and any minority community. They have representation here and they are welcome. More people are welcome here every day. There are people moving into my building right now. So my personal frustration is regardless, every single MAGA talking point about my city is just a distraction from the Epstein files. Everything the abhorrent use of zip tying children in Chicago. And I was listening to you earlier when I was getting ready. Yes, they want liberals to be outraged. To be like, how dare you do this to children? It's the Trump administration doing this to children. It's Trump's ICE agents attacking peaceful protesters in Portland. And literally there's a video circulating. This woman is peacefully standing in front of ICE agents talking to them and they just blast her entire, like from here to here with pepper spray. And she was in the hospital and we protest peacefully in Portland. There's this amount of people stirring up shit. And you were talking about them, the anarchists, the black bloc people, everybody just wants to burn the system to the ground. That is not your typical Portland citizen. Yesterday, we had the Portland Marathon. They run by my building and everyone's going, woo, and there's cowbells and party horns and everybody. It was so beautiful yesterday that everybody wanted to hug the city. And I was on the rooftop of a building with a beautiful family blending their lives with an engagement party, and we were celebrating. Because every day in Portland is like every day everywhere else in America. I went to a karaoke birthday party on Saturday night. Right. I'm going to Low Bar Corral tonight and tomorrow night. I'm going to go grocery shopping. I'm going to walk around my neighborhood. One things I'm not doing, though, Hal, we need to tell the kids. I'm not doing my podcast anymore. The Tara Show was canceled on Friday. Just so everybody knows. The Tara Show was canceled on Friday. I learned about it on Saturday. Hal and I had a really great conversation about my next steps professionally. And so for now, I would just and I'm not going to say anything negative because adults don't burn bridges. I would like everyone to just sign up for my Substack, whether you can pay for it or not. And also my YouTube. It's time to grow my YouTube. I only have I have a little over 1,000 subscribers right now on YouTube. And I'm just trying to grow all of this organically because I'm just going to be out here doing it on my own until someone else is like, hey, let me give you a lot of money to make your book into a TV series. So we're going to do that. Yeah. Thank you, Marcia, for the $1.99. So that's what we're doing. I'm not begging. I'm not pleading. You do what you do. I would love for everyone to share the link for my book, TaraDublinRocks.com. Just sharing and caring and doing what we do on our side as I continue to advocate for the truth at all times. And remember, I don't care who the truth is about, Hal. I really don't. And if Bill Clinton was all over the Epstein files, you probably know it by now. But anyway, yes, canceled, Kat. Yes, we were canceled. Well, it's money. It all just comes down to money. Everything is a financial decision, not a personal decision. And I, of course, being me and the sensitive, caring, feeling human that I am, take everything personally, but I'm trying to not. And I will be expanding my personal media empire.
Good.
We're going to grow organically and do our deal. I came up with a better name for my thing, though.
Okay.
I liked yours. Yours was good. I'm going to call it Tara Tells the Truth. Because, again, alliteration,
Sure.
And as you know, I care about the truth more than anything. And
Sure.
it can't, because Hal's suggestion, Friends, was great. It was like 10 minutes with Tara, and we are going to pop in and pop out. And I can still do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not always going to give you 10 minutes. I might give you 60 seconds of, hey, I'm standing in front of this place and I'm getting pizza. I'm going to go visit my friend Doug Adams in a couple of days to go to his restaurant. He came in third on Top Chef.
Right.
I don't remember what
Nice.
season it was. But famous people live in Portland. They can live anywhere. They can choose to live anywhere. And they choose to live here.
Can I?
Look, that's is that the
look,
crater? Where
This
can
is
I find
this
that?
is a live shot. This is a live shot. I'm just tired of the bullshit. This is a.
See, the problem is there are people who be like, no, I totally believe that.
That totally happened.
That's
right.
all that's left of Portland is this, like the Stand or something. Like we're just gonna get to Vegas by walking through giant craters in the ground. It's insanity, and it's again. Everyone is welcome to follow me on Twitter at Tara Dublin Rocks, because all I have been doing since Trump started this bullshit with Portland is showing the truth about Portland. And again, if you can show me, MAGA people, the crimeless utopia where you live here on planet Earth. Show me every square inch of the perfect utopia.
Hashtag
like on the
Portland.
Truman Show. I don't know. Please. The perfect utopia where you live, where everybody has a great big beautiful house and nobody is I don't know, without a home or isn't mentally ill. Nobody's food insecure. Everything's beautiful and clean and perfect, and everybody has so much money in the bank that they don't really have to worry if they lose their podcast with no notice. Shit like that. It's just show me where you live. Right? I'm trying all of this. Like, if you think this is a great idea, if you think Trump invading a city in the United States of America with troops is a great idea, invite him to your city. We don't need him in Portland. You can have him. And by the way, the judge has ruled that Trump can't send any National Guard here.
Yeah.
Not from any state. None.
Right.
None. You're done. And can I share the most delicious fact about this judge? Because there's something that's missing from this story. Everybody in the chat, if you take nothing away from our discussion today, take this and share it widely as though it was a box of chocolates. The judge who ruled on Trump, Judge Karen Immergut, was the second judge on this case. The original judge was asked to recuse so that Judge Immergut could be assigned to this case because she is a Trump appointee. But even better, Trump thought she would be a slam dunk because she was fully vetted by the Heritage Society.
Yeah. Foundation, yes.
Give me that. Give me that.
Yeah.
Because that is the truth that she
goes
really
to-
thought she was going to be like, I mean, you know what he thought. She was going to be like, go ahead and insurrection all you want in Portland. I'm with you. And she was like, fuck you. And here's this quote from James Madison. And don't even try it. It was gorgeous. Gorgeous and glorious. Trump appointed and said, you're done. I love it. I love it so much. Women are going to end Trump. I've said this unilaterally. Women are stepping up every time to end him. It's great. She was like,
I'm a big fan.
You did what to my order?
I'm a big fan of your soft gel sexism when it comes to it, because all I can think of is Candace Owens and Megyn Kelly and all the ones that are running
Democratic.
No.
But see, this isn't even a Democratic woman. This is an American woman who stepped up and did the job she was assigned to do, which is rule fairly on a decision. And the United States could not show any cause as to why they would want to send National Guard troops into Portland.
Right.
And the AG, in his statement last night, he was like, you can't play whack-a-mole with the United States. You can't. You can't go here and you can't. That's not how it works. And again, at the root of this is that he's covering up the Epstein files. And please tell me you've shared the video of him dancing on the Navy ship in that sundowning ridiculousness.
No, we're going to do the whole
the speech that
Navy,
he gave yesterday.
I'm going to give the whole Navy speech today. Yeah, I'm doing that tonight.
Right. So
and by the way,
that was very 25th Amendment adjacent material.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. Hold on.
That's not how it works.
Yes, that's right. Welcome to the game show that everybody's playing, whether they know it or not. That's right. Our winner today is Donald J. Trump, because he doesn't understand the law even when it's handed to him on a silver platter. That's right.
That's not how it works.
All right. Yeah, I created my own theme song.
That's right.
For
I love
the game
it.
show.
It's so positive and peppy, like
Isn't
the
it?
Taylor Swift album. That
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, all right. A couple of things.
Yes.
One is, and this is, to that point of like, who's going to draw attention to the fact that, Trump is he's entering swiftly the find out phase. I would argue that it's debatable when the find out phase starts in any given situation. It's almost like there should be a coin that you flip and go, what's today's day? It's today's fuck around. Okay. And then, find out. It seems, or there's a clock that just magically ticks over everyone's heads like a Nickelback video with it that says, one day it just counts down to 0 and it's find out time.
I think it's in the morning they fuck around, but by sunset they have found out because they're just so bad at this.
Well, speaking of sundowning, we'll get to that in a moment. But his old friend Rupert Murdoch, who had a mystery meeting where he was able to call the vice president out to his farm and give him a pat on the back and a mint and a sit on his lap and promises of something, God knows what. To basically come back and go, release all the Epstein files today. They have the Wall Street Journal has this opinion out today. The coming Trump tariff bailout. Farmers and others with political clout will get a government subsidy or a carve out. You knew it was coming. As President Trump's tariffs damage farmers and businesses across the U.S., the victims are besieging the administration for relief. The long lines of the Commerce and Agriculture departments are the latest proof of self-destructive tariff folly. Soybean farmers got fucked in that Argentinian deal. The Argentinians signed it as soon as the prices went up here, or we did a tariff on them. They signed a deal with the Chinese, and Trump had just bailed them out to the $20 billion, basically to kickstart the crypto farms that Don Jr. uses down there. That's what it was for, to keep it, because the power is subsidized by the government, and so they backed up the government subsidies with $20 billion of taxpayer money, and in return, Argentina made a deal with China and bought and sold them. Let's see. Yeah, we $20 billion worth, almost exactly the same number. But U.S. Soybean exports to China totaled 218 million bushels through August this year, down sharply from 985 million bushels under Biden. Can I just put it that way? Can we
Unreal.
say stop saying 2024?
Unreal.
Can we say under Biden?
Under
Thank you
Biden.
very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Would this be the same Wall Street Journal that confirmed Trump's signature on the Epstein letter? And
yep.
no one's talking about that.
Where's that $10 billion lawsuit go? Well, that just kind of fucking evaporated, didn't it? So
he invaded Portland instead.
That's right.
Again, everything's a distraction from Epstein. Everything.
Yeah.
He's just hurting American farmers at the same time, as well as all other Americans. And when you're talking about the find out, MAGA is finding out because their grocery prices have gone up. Their their insurance premiums for their healthcare are about to are tripling as we speak. They are not able to pay rent. They are not able to. I mean, it's happening to them, and they want to deny that it's happening to them because they can't possibly believe the dear leader lied, or they thought somehow that only these things were going to happen to liberals. Super a lot of liberal farmers in the Midwest growing soybeans to export. So, it's incredibly frustrating watching them be okay with their own destruction, because maybe it's not happening to them today, but eventually poorly performing red states are always going to be hit harder in a situation like this.
It seems like they're up against one particular element, which is that to criticize any of these situations, they have to admit that Trump is wrong and that there's something wrong with him, right? Like that's where they're stuck. So in many ways, like either they bought into this whole lie and they just are all in on it because they find it politically useful temporarily because they're dealing with he basically drove away all the Republicans. The only Republicans who are voting soft Republicans that are voting at all anymore are voting with their local representative if they believe that, well, okay, I like the immigration stuff, or I like this one thing, but or their big abortion, opponents, but everything else they're like keeping their nose down and basically ignoring everything. Can I point out also that there was a judge in, I believe it was, let me check, South Carolina. I was about to say North Carolina.
South Carolina. And
Yeah.
this is abhorrent. And
Yeah.
that's why Judge Immergut must be protected at all costs now, because she and her family barely got out of there. Her grandchildren were in there.
Yep. Her
And
husband had to
3
jump
people had
from
to
the
be
second floor.
hospitalized.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just hope there weren't any pets in there. This shit needs to stop. And
Yeah.
we need to start using our words again. You want to fight with words, that's great. Nobody's house explodes if you say, I don't like your politics.
Yeah.
This goes beyond anything that should be within the realm of acceptable and normal. And once again, let me say, as I did around the Charlie Kirk thing, political violence is never the answer. It is never the solution. It is never an option for me personally. And you could go through my entire Twitter life and be like, you can make jokes off the cuff like, oh, every day's fine to punch a Nazi. That's different than this. This is a real family. Okay, it's not just the judge. You have to think about the family, the neighbors, the repercussions of what you're doing to this and what signal this sends. And it's just, stop it, okay? I can disagree with my political enemy without wishing them any bodily harm. And I do not know how many times I have said just on this show, no one person should lose their lives over Donald Trump. Not one. Not the people who didn't vote for him, not the people who did. Nobody should be targeted because they're not MAGA. It doesn't make any, this takes the cult beyond. And I am really upset with the lack of any sort of accountability on this from the media. I want them screaming about this. It's time for that. This isn't just, we can't just keep reporting on it without pointing to this pattern.
I know, but it's the top story on Daily Beast right now. It's being covered on MSN. They're definitely, and I got to tell you, part of the reason was because it involved a fire. So people like it's when one of the
eye-catching. Right?
Yes, and that literally that will draw more eyeballs to it than a shooting or something else. Like it's just the nature of video and how people watch stuff. They were talking about how like users were stacking on like a couple days before her house was set fire to, allegedly, because again, we don't know the full story quite yet. But but rain holy hellfire on these judges who interfere with the executive branch. Like all these people were like, this judge's civil rights will not stand for a state court judge's nasty nullification of our federal voting laws. That's Harmeet Dillon, and that's them
awful.
saying rain holy hell on them. MAGA is already publicly posting calls for violence against Judge Diane Goodstein a few weeks ago. May all your evil wishes.
Could it be
and
that
evil
she
deeds-
also has a Jewy last name? Sounds Jewy, right? So it's easier to Jew. Yeah, please. Somebody tweeted to me that all Jewish Democratic women are demons. I'm a demon, so that's the demon. Capo Nosferatu is the demon. Stephen Miller.
Yeah, so Stephen Miller.
Okay?
Yeah,
he's a resurrected succubus, and I can't.
I gotta say, there's a problem. The problem that Republicans have is that is there political violence across the spectrum, of course. But the volume, effectiveness, and deadliness of the political violence is heavily weighted on the right, is less targeted on less targeted on the right. For example, if you want to one for one, and I wouldn't do this, but this is the single count. You have Tyler Robinson allegedly shooting Charlie Kirk, allegedly killing him because of his hate speech, because he was a right winger, and because Tyler Robinson viewed himself as, a person whose rights were being disenfranchised, or the partner of someone whose rights were being disenfranchised by the speaking of Charlie Kirk, and therefore left-wing violence kills Charlie Kirk. That's what you want to go with. Fine, but then the next time we have, what was the guy in I think it was in New Mexico, walked into the Walmart, or the guy in the that walked into the grocery store in the Northeast, a Hispanic grocery store, and opened fire, killed 28 people. The body counts stack way higher on the right because it's not about individuals with them. It's about human beings, just kinds of people. It's based largely on bigotry. And so they act out towards large groups of humans, even if that's political bigotry, meaning Democrats need to be wiped out, instead of one targeted assassination, which is wrong and bad and not good, and I'm against it.
It's all that.
But the idea that somehow the problem with the right is that they're going to run into these kind of situations. You're going to like say the left is responsible for all this violence, but the right wingers who are fomenting this kind of violence aren't going to stop. As long as they feel justified and as long as they feel supported by Trump and they hear him saying the same shit about, you know, Democratic governors that they say and calling them scum and inhuman, and that is how that's how the body count weight is going to go. They're going to feel justified.
I know, and it's and again, you know, like we're looking at these incidences, and if it's one person who blew up the house, or there's a couple of people who conspired to blow up the judge's house, that's points to the bigger issue of they basically feel like they're taking orders from Trump to commit these violent acts to remove his enemies. And that, like, they feel like they're these foot soldiers for him, which is very culty. And, you know, like Nick Sorter, that guy who was in Portland, can't stop telling on himself. And he literally tweeted, like, he tweeted that Trump texted him, like, saw you on TV. You're doing a great job for us. What now? You're admitting he sent you there. You're admitting you're only there because he sent you. Like, we are seeing that. That's what I want the media to report on. They're covering it, but there's more to it than just this got blown up. There's the why behind it. There's the reason behind it. And there's the trail that connects from these incidences of violence, and that goes all the way back to the White House. And if you don't believe me, look at what the White House sends out as their messaging. They're sending out memes of Democrats photoshopped with mustaches and
sombreros.
And sombreros, okay?
Yeah.
They're tweeting xenophobic, racist memes. That's what the White House, official White House Twitter account is doing. That. The children who are operating that Twitter account are embarrassing us on the global stage, and MAGA thinks it's fucking hilarious because it's like remedial after-school breakfast club dipshittery.
And part of it is we react the way they want us to.
That's not how America ends.
I know that, but that's
that's not where we're going.
That's why do they do it? Because it works. And if you have...
so we have to find something that works.
No, we need to stop allowing that to work. I'm not going to make inverse racist memes against them, and racism on racism doesn't help.
No, that's not that's exactly what I meant, though. What you just said.
Right, yeah.
Is finding a way to shut it down before it gets worse.
Well, I would argue that you have to find a way to mock them for even trying to do that, instead of getting outraged. And because that's, again... They don't feel shame. You do. They don't, you're never going to appeal to the moral anchor that causes shame in people that would post something like that. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But you can make them think it's ineffective and they will stop. That's the only option. As outrageous and horrifying and awful and disgusting as it is, that's exactly what they want you to say. And if you cannot say it, that's how you end it. That's the ironic part of all this, is that there's, he's rage farming. That's what this is. Yeah. Let me show you a clip from the Navy gathering yesterday.
Oh my God.
Where,
so embarrassing. By the way,
yes?
People in the chat are asking how you do that. I can tell you that there are people down at the ICE facility dressed in giant inflatable costumes. There's a great one a video that went viral of someone in a giant frog costume, and the ICE agents are backing away. So it's like our giant inflatable frog beat the Pepe, because I'm pretty sure we're still going to do it. But right now, I think we're just talking about it. But Friday, we're supposed to get people to go down to the ICE facility dressed in the most ridiculous Halloween costumes we can find, so that every time one of these influencers turned around, there's a giant unicorn wearing an apron or, whatever. So that's part of it. It's mocking you because there's actually nothing.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the footage if the people that were down there mocking ICE were not dressed in all black with their face covered, looking like they're in a fucking Rage Against the Machine video, but it was a bunch of people in like those inflatable sumo outfits fighting in front of the place.
Yes, and that's happening.
Right.
Somebody, my friend Lisa said we should all go down there wearing either Epstein or Trump masks.
Yeah.
And that should be it.
Yeah.
So that every time they turn their camera, it's Epstein and Trump together, which I love.
And well,
I don't know where I would get one.
Cover yourself in paper.
Cover
yourself in paper and just write Epstein files all over the pages, and then stand there and then just go up and try to get interviewed. Find somebody who's walking around with a microphone and going, and then ask them, "How can you see me? I'm invisible. No one can find me.
I don't exist. I'm a hoax."
Yeah, right. I'm a hoax. Why would you interview a hoax? Right.
I love that. That's gonna be my costume.
Yeah.
That's
so
listen. You know what?
Time passages.
To be politically correct. anymore. And history will never forget that it was the SEALs who stormed the compound at Osama bin Laden and put a bullet in his head. Remember that? And please remember, I wrote about Osama bin Laden exactly 1 year ago, 1 year before he blew up the World Trade Center. And I said, you got to watch Osama bin Laden. And the fake news would never let me get away with that statement unless it was true. But I said 1 year before to Pete Hegseth, I said 1 year before, where's Pete? In the book, I wrote, whatever the hell the title, I can't tell you. But I can tell you there's a page in there devoted to the fact that I saw somebody named Osama bin Laden, and I didn't like it, and you got to take care of him. They didn't do it. A year later, he blew up the World Trade Center, so we got to take a little credit.
He thinks this happened last year.
Give it to me, you know?
He thinks he told Pete Hegseth about this a year before 9/11.
The whole story. They don't give you credit.
Pete Hegseth, I believe, was in high school.
Did you hear what he said there real quick?
They give it to me, you know, the old story. They don't give you credit, just take it yourself.
If they don't give you credit, just take it yourself.
That's his whole life in a little throwaway moment.
Corpse off the decks of the Carl Vinson to sink into the dark abyss.
Notice the look on his face. Ugh. The dark abyss. Ugh. Is that what's going to happen to me?
That's where you belong, in the dark abyss.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that's where he is.
You are headed straight toward
he currently is in the dark abyss. Yeah. So
okay. So obviously we know who got bin Laden because we've seen the photos of all of them sitting, watching the footage like, oh my God, what is going to happen? And I hope none of our people die. And Obama's in the room with Hillary Clinton and everybody else. And they're all like, you weren't there, bitch. And he's acting like it happened last year. That's the thing. If you listen to him, he's like, last year I wrote about a man named Osama bin Laden.
I didn't like him. I don't know what page. I don't know what book it was. I don't know what the page was. You'll have to. Somebody will check it. I'm sure these people would not. I don't know.
I don't know exactly how old Pete Hegseth is, but I do know he was not living in the public eye on 9/11. Like, we did not know who he was. He was not on Fox News.
He was a 20-year-old college student at the time. He was not.
So there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was no there.
Again, no there. But again, also, Trump said a year ago. A year ago.
Yeah.
You were fighting off accusations of you were losing to E. Jean Carroll in court. That's what you were. Like, what were you doing a year ago? Paw. Just his brain is rancid oatmeal with just those tiny raisins that are like
I didn't like him. You got basically. This is honestly what he's trying to do. What he's trying to do, honest to God, he's trying to make the case that Obama didn't get him. He warned people of him, and it just came true, and therefore he's kind of responsible. He basically ordered the hit on Osama bin Laden. That's where his brain is going.
A year before anything happened, a year before 9/11, I can't personally recall. Maybe there's footage out there somewhere. I can't ever recall anyone talking about Osama bin Laden before that happened, before 9/11. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention as much.
Not in the public eye. Not much. No.
Not really. No. And I don't recall Donald Trump ever talking about Osama bin Laden specifically. I just remember him bragging that his buildings were the tallest left in New York after 9/11, which is not true. So, and that he went down there and personally helped try to clean up at Ground Zero, which he never did. But you know who did? Hillary Clinton. Thank you so much for paying attention to what's true. It's that, and this is, again, the frustration that he gets to just blather, and the media's like, anyway, you know, like no one cleans up after him. You know, like no one caretakes the truth, which is why we need a Democratic press secretary and a daily Democratic press briefing. Especially right now would be great. Especially right now when we can tell the truth about Portland on the daily. I don't want to be the Democratic press secretary. I think Sherry Jacobus would be excellent at it. But yeah, I believe that if there were somebody trustworthy out there from the, the whole unifying message on the left that we need, that could start with a daily press briefing from a Democratic press secretary saying, hey, our unifying message today is 25th Amendment now. 25th Amendment now. And I think that we could be close to that because the Republicans have really no good way out of this situation. They really don't. Right? So if they let you, and I heard you saying earlier, nature's taken its course, and it is. His veins are winning this battle. He's losing the battle of his veins. And that congestive heart failure is something. When he was the other, he said to somebody, I have a bigger heart than you do. Yeah, you have congestive heart failure. Your heart is like 8 times the size of what it should be. Donnie drive through. So, like all of this stuff and his revenge fuck against anybody with the perceived slights and the self-victimization that's trickled down to MAGA. It's sad and it's pathetic. And one of the other things that I'm doing is I'm trying to remind people of who they were before Trump poisoned their minds. Like Republicans in Congress. I'm like, you didn't talk like this 10 years ago. You just didn't. You didn't.
Well, they didn't have the voter base pushing them in that direction, and they didn't. And again, I gotta say, I keep bringing it back to us, and we're getting near the end of the hour, and everybody needs. Do you have a URL for your YouTube page yet? Officially, is it Tara Dublin?
I have a YouTube. It's at Tara Dublin Rocks on YouTube.
There you go.
So
and then your Substack
/ at Tara Dublin Rocks. The Substack is taradublin.substack.com.
There you go.
I'm still across your socials at Tara Dublin Rocks. The only difference is that on Instagram it's Tara Dublin Rocks, the number 1. And my book is The Sound of Settling a Rock and Roll Love Story. And before we wrap, I just want to interject one bit of positivity for anybody who might be worried. My cats are not going to starve. I'm not going to starve. No one's going to let us starve. So I don't want to I don't want people to have the false impression that like I'm taking food out of my cat's mouth to eat. We're not rationing cans of, food here. That is not the issue. I'm just trying to grow this authentic, my thing. But the other good thing that I'm leaning into right now, because I mentioned my book, my Senator Ron Wyden, his wife Nancy Wyden, owns the Strand bookstore in New York City. That's nice. And Ron loves me. We're going to have a nosh soon. So I'm just going to slide a book across the table and be like, maybe your wife would like to read this book. Not pushing, just sharing something crafted
That's how it works.
that people love and enjoy. A rock and roll love story to take you out of this terrible time.
That's right.
So,
here, there's a little bit of good news.
Yay, give it.
It just came out a couple seconds ago. Let's hear it from the man himself.
So I'm going to take some time off and think about what to do next. I feel like, me, my ego will drag me back in front of a camera before too long. You know what I'm like. I'm going to take this opportunity to cultivate a deeper relationship with God, to reflect on what's happening in this culture.
And meet with my attorneys over my 8 rape cases.
And to see how, what they say is what you have to offer meets what the world needs. And if I have nothing to offer that the world needs, then that will take care of itself, won't it? I'll just...
will.
One would hope,
will.
Maybe get a little cabin somewhere.
You know what?
Also, by the way...
You and Andrew Tate can go hang out in Mar-a-Lago, it?
More like Prince Andrew. But...
Boy.
And be with my beautiful, beautiful children.
I mean, he can go with Andrew Tate and Prince Andrew. I don't give a fuck.
I'm going to take some time off. We'll see. If the world needs my voice, it will find a way of getting it. Well, it's not like
say it ain't so, Rusty Trombone. Off he goes. I guess, I mean, it's got to be.
All of your mediocrity brothers with you. Can you take Jack Piece of Shit and Cat Turd and Benny Johnson and Tim
This motherfucker,
and
I give it a week, and he's selling private subscriptions to talk to him on Zoom to like the more sycophantic of his followers.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, fucking wanker.
The grift. The
Fucking
grift
wanker.
is
What wanker?
endless.
What fucking wanker?
People
Yeah.
who accuse of Democratic influencers grifting. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I have never bought followers. Okay, there are people who falsely inflate their follower accounts and do shit like that. If I did that, I would not only have 109,000 followers on Twitter. And then you have your Lindy Lees who are like, opportunity on the right, sure, I'll take that. It's shit. It's grifter shit like that that give good people a bad name. People, you know what? You don't want to do anything else. Just find somebody who's telling the truth and just share their truth. It doesn't even have to be the two of us. Find somebody that you believe is telling the truth, and please just. That's what matters.
Right.
Not his fucking shit. You know, the truth is free. And anybody if I end up going and working in a restaurant again to pay the bills, that's great. My truth is free. Nobody has to pay me to do the right thing by my country. Okay? You don't. I'm still going to do this, right? I'm still going to tell the truth about Portland. I'm still going to share it. I'm still literally going to take my phone and walk the streets of my town and be like, are we war ravaged? And people would be like, no. I met a lovely family from Burlington, Vermont on Friday. They had been in Portland, just first visit, 6 of them piled out of an SUV. It was like watching, I was like, what, who's coming out next? On Hawthorne Boulevard, had just arrived, gotten like a tour of the city in this SUV. They like rented this SUV and got a personal tour, and then they went shopping. And I stopped them. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, so what do you think? And they're like, this is such a beautiful city. We have no idea what they're talking about on the news. We could see the mountains and we could see this, and everyone's been so nice already. And I said, how long have you been here? And they said 6 hours. And I said, what so far? They were like, we already had a really great burger at some place and the airport's gorgeous. They're like, we have no idea what people are talking about. So it's real. And, like the reality of your daily life, wherever, if you're listening to this, watching this, just open your front door and take look at the reality of the normalcy that's outside your front door. It's the same normal reality that we are living with here. It's the same. Donald Trump should not be invading any American city, and nobody should be tolerating that or being disappointed that his effort to invade Portland didn't work. Like, you should not be disappointed by that. You should be excited by that, because that's democracy in action. And if you're someone who's encouraging the invasion of American cities because you're a fascist, I'm going to give you 2 choices. Get the fuck out of America because we don't like fascists here. Or secondly, invite the National Guard to invade your city and see how your neighbors feel about that. Because you don't need them. We don't need that. You should be advocating for the full release of the Epstein files. That's what you should be doing. You should be asking why he shut down the government instead of having Mike Johnson swear in Adelita and having our 218th vote to get the Epstein files released. They won't ask those questions because they don't have any natural curiosity. And they won't ask those questions because they don't seem to have any self-respect. People have self-respect. You don't let anyone lie to you. You don't let anyone grift you. It's a fool me once, fool me twice kind of a situation. You want to keep being fooled? That is a choice you are making in your life. I would ask that you hang out with people who care about the future of this country, which includes every single citizen within our borders. So I don't care who you vote for. I want you to live your life. That's our unspoken social contract here in America. And one of the things that we're saying about Portland over and over and over again, because I heard this at our peaceful protest last Sunday, the 28th. Portland is a city of neighbors who take care of each other. If you're quoting Patton Oswalt, Portland is a bookstore surrounded by a city, right? That's what it is. We are a city of neighbors who take care of each other, but that is what our country should be. Our country is a country of neighbors who take care of each other. If you're not a neighbor who takes care of your neighbors, you're not really fully, authentically living a life as a proper American. You think, whatever you're doing, tweak it just a bit and put some goodness into the world instead. That's what I'm trying to do. And as I said to you on the phone over the weekend, good people attract good people. That's why you and I are in each other's lives. You became my friend a very, very, very long time ago. You were the first person to put me on a podcast. You were the first person to invite me on a political podcast and be like, hey, you have stuff to say.
Yep.
Good people lift each other up instead of trying to knock each other out of the way to get the money or get the glory or get what. I don't care. You know what? I happen to know that a lot of the stuff that I was finding on Twitter and sending to my friend in Ron Wyden's office got to the AG, got to the governor, helped make decisions. They found out what was actually going on at ICE. I don't need any of the credit for that. Like, they'll never. No, I'm not that Nick Sorter guy. I'm not going to publicly be like, make it about me. I just want people to know that there are good people out here who are very, very willing to continue the fight for democracy. And the more of us, the better. So if anyone wants to tell like Matt or Lawrence to be like focused on, I want the MSN, like I understand MSNBC is preaching to the choir. It'd be nice if somebody showed Scott Jennings the reality of Portland because he's not interested, right?
Well, I think that, here's the goal would be like, come to Portland. You're not allowed to go in the 2-block area around the ICE facility. Then you could do a report. Like because we know what that looks like.
Great.
There's tons of cameras down there. If you're going to tell me that Portland, #RipPortland, if Portland is a failed state, then show me the rest of it, not just that same 2-block area. That, by the way, is being ratcheted up on purpose, right? Also, the Halloween costume idea is a great plan.
Love it. I love it. I'm going to share it with all of my friends organizing
Black
the next
Bloc
King's March, which is October 18th.
Black Bloc suffers from the same ego building bullshit problem that gun owners have, that all guns are black and look tough and scary, and it automatically puts fear in somebody. And so you're using that manipulation point as a threat on anybody. If they see you walking down the street with your face covered, all dressed in black, you're in the act of terrorizing someone for political purposes. Even if you think it's the right people, that's what you're doing. Don't pretend you're not doing it. Own it. And if you have to go to jail because of it, go to fucking jail because of it. Live up to your standards. But the idea that you're going to skulk around and chuck shit at people randomly in a crowd, and we don't know if you're real or if you're fucking Jack Posobiec playing dress up, in the same way that like every time fucking Patriot Front would show up someplace, like right-wingers everywhere started yelling "Fed" at them because they made them look bad. So they were yelling "Fed" at them, and the chances that those guys were fed was 0. But they didn't trust them. It didn't matter. Like these people were so ready because they knew it would be used against them, so they stiff-armed it. And that's got to be part of it. Again, all the people who are in Antifa show up in Halloween costumes. You could still wear a mask, I guess. But stop with this Guy Fawkes shit. It's not macho.
And that seems to be the vibe here in Portland too. A lot of the what I see on Facebook, what I see on Instagram, everyone's like, let's just, it's about embarrassing them. It's about shutting down this negative narrative from them because honestly for them, and also pointing out all of their bullshit footage is manufactured at night because it looks way more dramatic. During the day, there's barely anyone down there. No one's really kicking up a fuss. Most people are just going for their annual yearly check-in. Yes, we're still working. Yes, we're still living here. And they leave with no incident. But then at night, that's when the laser pointers from the Fox embedded person on the roof are being shut, whatever. What's the word for a laser pointer? Where you shine them, pointing them down, whatever.
Yeah.
It's all manufactured, right? So it is all about continuing to share the truth across, Blue Sky is the echo chamber of, Democratic truth, but you still have to do it there. Republicans go where Republicans are. Republicans post on Instagram. So that's a great place to share visuals with Republicans.
Right.
But again,
I stream my show on Rumble just because it's free. But
well, hi Rumble kids. Hi. By the way, our t-shirt game today is dually on point.
Yeah.
Yours is magic. Yours is magic. Mine. I'm going to continue to wear this shirt today. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to lead with my Judaism. So that's on a final note because I know we're over.
Yeah.
I went to temple over this last week for the first time in like 40 years. Because my friend Lisa, who works for Ron Wyden, we were going to go down to the ICE facility together on Wednesday night just to kind of just see what was going on. And then she said, you know what? I really feel like I need to go to temple and hear Kol Nidre, which is at sundown the night before Yom Kippur. That's the tradition. That's the way you begin Yom Kippur, and it's the holiest of days. It's a very big deal. And so I was like, you know what? That sounds right. That sounds right and good. And she's like, I really need my community. And we go to the oldest synagogue in Oregon, which happens to be in my neighborhood. It's gloriously beautiful. My representative Bonamici was there. It's where Ron Wyden goes when he's in town, but like lots of local Democratic power Jews were there. This judge, that Democratic person, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But the big takeaway was, and I shared it on my Substack, the rabbi gave an amazing sermon at the end. And of course, because it's Portland, we have a lesbian rabbi.
Ron Wyden,
she was
not Ron White. Ron Wyden.
Ron Wyden.
The
Wyden,
senator from
Wyden.
Yeah. It's okay. Go ahead.
Wyden. A mensch. Anyway, what she said at, within her sermon was about how to be a Jew right now when a lot of people are wanting us to be quiet, because the Israel thing, they think we support genocide and we don't. And just, that's a whole other thing for another time. She said, as Jews, it is not our responsibility to fight anti-Semitism, because that's what they're trying to push us into the darkness. It's not our responsibility to fight anti-Semitism. It's our responsibility to lead with the light of Judaism, to shine the light on truth. So that's what I'm doing with my Judaism. I can be an atheist and still be very proud of my culture and my people. So I'm going to be leading with the light of Judaism.
Yeah, you got to explain that to me one day. As somebody who's not an atheist, you'll have to explain that to me one day.
Cannot. I believe in the humanity of my community rather than a higher power. That's all. It's the strength within community that is real and palpable. Right. I don't believe in a higher power guiding. I don't.
Well, welcome to how I feel about every human being on the planet, even the ones I don't like. Yeah.
I'm just saying, be a better human. I wear that shirt often as well.
I try, but I'm almost maxed out. I'm just kidding.
Don't do it though. Every day.
Yes.
Small acts of resistance all add up. I love you guys. I appreciate Sparklers.
Appreciate it.
So very much.
We'll see you next time.
I don't have anything specific to promote, so I'll just see you next Monday.
Good luck and go build the stuff, and we'll send people over. And then at some point, maybe you could schedule one of your shows after mine, and we can just do a raid and that kind of thing, which is how we do it. So think about that.
I love this. Halloween costumes for all. See you later.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye. They always ditch out right before, like, let me broom you from my own shoe, for God's sake. Oh no, stream lost connection. Welcome back. Hi chat room. Good to see you. I'll see you guys this afternoon. I have a lot of work to do, so I've got to jump off. But I feel like we had a very valuable conversation. In the first hour, I had set up a couple of news pieces in that bit about Portland. I was going to play that before Tara showed up, but I got so carried away having a wonderful conversation with you guys that I'm glad we were able to have. I'll have other stuff on the Wednesday show, or whenever I am guestless when I'm guestless next. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys later this afternoon. Get used to the idea. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. I'm out.
Don't be shy. Subscribe now or blink and cry.
Couch humping.
What?
Jumping. Feel the beat.
I like wood.
Take it higher, can't retreat.
Deeper and longer.
Feel the rhythm. Can't deny. Couch
What?
humping. Reach the sky.
2,000 meals coming soon.
Transvestite.
I had a beat off.
Transvestite.
Lose control, feel the fire. Oh yeah. Groovy steps, take it higher. Round and round, won't let go. Get wet, wild, let's show.
I call the stroker.
Don't you stop.
I had a beat off.
Let it build.
The stroker.
Pop, pop, sweat's on fire.
Stop it.
Couch is swinging all through the night.
What?
Couch humping, jumping, feel the beat.
Here I am like an idiot.
Take it higher.
Wow.
Can't retreat. Feel the rhythm. Can't deny. Couch humping, reach the sky.
They just explode.
They don't like the gas.
Voila. Voila.
Action replays in magnified fortune. Heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your. The kidney has a very special place in the heart.